I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the worst of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
We bypassed something here in the last hour locally, talking to Allison. She's headed to the Super Bowl. I hate the Super Bowl and Super Bowl week. I just despise it as a media spectacle. And we glossed over the fact that evidently Stephen A. Smith and Will Cain and everybody, they're all going to be broadcasting from a food court.
Yeah.
So I want to get to that in a second, that the media is descending on Minneapolis and Minneapolis is sending us over to a mall food court at the height of sports entertainment. It's something I want to address. But before we do that.
It is the Mall of America, though, Dan. I mean, it's a nice mall.
Okay, fine. But it's still America's most popular sport and a very large media business descending on Minneapolis. And in order to cover the Super Bowl, they're going to put us near the Annie's Pretzels.
Did you know that Mall of America has its own zip code?
What?
It's the biggest. Is it still the biggest mall in America? Can you guys look this up? Because when it was billed as the biggest mall in America.
It has an aquarium, a theme park, a movie theater,
is it
20,000 parking spaces.
Is it indeed Minneapolis's chief landmark? Is it the thing that you associated above all others with Minneapolis?
Well, the Bud Grant garage sale.
Yep.
But before we get to making fun of the Super Bowl and this tension that we have every year where the rest of the show wants to do the Super Bowl and talk to Patrick Peterson, and I very reluctantly get dragged into this mess to just make fun of everything because it's a bunch of prediction radio for a week, prediction television. Who do you think's going to win? Keys to the matchup.
In terms of square footage, King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania is the largest in America, followed by Aventura Mall.
Wow. What?
Mike, can you get me the sound? This is why I hate Radio Row. Can you get me the sound of David Deal, the former Giants offensive lineman, who we asked him, and this was just very Radio Row. We asked him a question about something key to the game, and he just yammered for 2.5 minutes. And it's what Radio Row is this year from the Mall of the Americas. But before we get to that, I want to get to this story, Stugotz. Bob Costas is doing something fairly remarkable right now.
What is he doing?
Bob Costas, it would appear from what I'm reading, and I'm getting this news as we speak, it would appear, according to the Sports Business Daily, Street Smith Sports Business Daily, that Bob Costas is sitting out the Super Bowl because of moral objections to what it is that's happening in that sport with the brains. Let me get to it in a second here because this is a fairly significant stand that Bob Costas is taking against both football and his own network. And the headline is NBC's Bob Costas, decision to skip Super Bowl, mutually agreeable. But before we get to that, here's why I hate Sports Radio Row because of David Deal's answer to whether or not, what were the keys to the Falcons beating the Patriots.
What's the single most important thing the Falcons have to do to beat the Patriots?
I think the biggest thing that they have to do to beat the Patriots is they need to play clean, mistake-free football. It takes a full 2 weeks of preparation to get ready for that game. Number one, you have to be prepared for the unexpected. You have to know the rules of the game. But the biggest thing for me looking at this game is it comes down to coaching. And I talk about halftime. Halftime usually come in, it's about 15 minutes during a regular season game or a playoff game. But the Super Bowl, it feels like you're in there for like an hour. I'll never forget in Super Bowl 42, I'm like, okay, we still have time. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll come back out. I'm sitting in the bathroom and I'm taking a pee and I'm start singing Free Fallin'. I'm like, wait a second. I could hear Tom Petty in the stadium while I was in the bathroom going, I'm like, okay, this is definitely the Super Bowl.
I mean, he nailed it, man. You think about that game, you really do. I mean, halftime, coaching, adjustments, and clearly the Patriots knew the rules.
No, when I think of that game, I think of David Deal on a toilet singing Free Falling by Tom Petty while peeing, taking a pee.
That was fun, though. You enjoyed that.
I did not enjoy that. I did not enjoy that. It
Too bad.
is the bane of my existence. It's what I hate about sports coverage. Everything that was in there. I mean, I asked him for one damn reason that the Falcons, the thing the Falcons had to do to beat the Patriots.
I also almost died while asking him that question. He blew right
That's
past
right.
that.
That's right. You were stumbling around, phlegm covered and gross. All right. Let me read this story here. Bob Costa cited his own dampening enthusiasm for football as the main reason he will not be an on-air host for NBC's pregame show at next month's Super Bowl. Quote, the decision was mutually agreeable, and not only do I not have a problem with it, I'm actually happy about it, he told the Daily via email. I have long had ambivalent feelings about football, so at this point, it's better to leave the hosting to those who are more enthusiastic about it. News that Costas would not be in Minneapolis came as a surprise yesterday, especially since NBC last year specifically said that the veteran broadcaster would work the Super Bowl as part of a pared-down on-air schedule. But Costas dismissed the idea that his November comments at a University of Maryland seminar when he offered a bleak assessment of football's future served as a catalyst to keep him off the telecast. Quote, I've been making the same points for several years, often on NBC, in halftime commentaries, interviews with Roger Goodell and other prominent NFL figures, appearances on CNN and elsewhere. I have addressed the issue of football and its undeniable connection to brain trauma many times. Why? Because the evidence is overwhelming and the effects are often devastating. It's the elephant in the stadium at every game, whether others choose to acknowledge it or not, and it's not going away. So the idea that I am only now finding my voice on this, or that NBC was taken aback by what I said at Maryland, is just plain wrong. It's all simple and straightforward.
This is how you avoid the food court. He doesn't want to go to Minnesota. He doesn't want to go to the Mall of America.
This does seem a little bit like Spin Zone, though.
Yeah,
right?
it really does.
Mutually agreeable, because these rumors were out about, like, this statement comes on the heels of him being removed from this coverage. Now, there's a couple of factors, the Olympics being around the corner being one of them, but it seems as though while he's been making this point, and I know he's not just finding his voice, maybe the NFL's done with having that voice on its Super Bowl coverage.
Is he going to stop, well, that's a good point. Is he going to stop doing Sunday Night Football? Like, where is he?
I don't know. We will see.
How far is he willing to take it?
All
I guess
right,
is what I'm
hold
saying.
on a second. I'd like to talk some more about this, and we will in a second. But this is what I want to ask you: as Al Michaels gives up some games, as Vin Scully retires, as Bob Costas scales back, Bob Costas, the preeminent sports voice of our time, as he scales back, are we entering a time now in 2018, with the way that sports media is spread out, that kind of broadcaster is never going to exist again? Like, are we going to have anybody who becomes the voice of something?
A-Rod. He's the voice of everything.
He is. All right. I'm good with it. I'm totally good with it. Look, if A-Rod becomes president of the company, I'm good with it. If A-Rod just gets every job in sports media and every job, I'd like to remember for the rest of my life the way that we chased A-Rod out of a sport, calling him names, and then have him come back and reinvent himself as the single greatest media personality in the history of sports and entertainment.
Hi, this is Papi. Do you know that my TV show Highly Questionable is not only on ESPN2 every day at 4:30 Eastern, it is also available as a podcast. You can listen or subscribe to the Highly Questionable podcast on ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don Le Batard.
Stu Gatz, when we decided to move to South Florida, decided that he was going to move to Neptune.
Yeah.
He thought that would be a good commute. Keeps buying homes further and further north.
Stugats.
Last time I checked in with him, he was having a home built on stilts in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
The Cavs lost last night to a dude named Murray.
Yeah.
It was just a guy whose first name Murray. Beat them by 12 last night. The Cavs are in total free fall. I don't think we've ever seen what we know to be a championship caliber team look quite this bad.
No. They looked bad last year, but not like this.
No, they have been the worst team in the league all month. And they're just getting smoked. The Spurs didn't even play anybody last night. The Spurs just threw a lineup out there, and they're getting beaten. by everybody. But before we get to the Cavs situation, Allison, I am told that the Mall of the Americas in Minneapolis, is it Mall of the Americas or is it Mall of America?
Mall of America, fine.
Okay. That was a question I asked you.
Well, you did say the Mall of Americas first, and then
It is the third largest mall in the United States, behind the one in Pennsylvania and in Aventura down here.
I know, I'm familiar with the one down here. I mean, that's where all my money is. I mean, Abby has spent days there. Literally. They have a hotel at the Aventura Mall because she has gone there and not come back for days. She has spent weekends there.
They must have a hotel there. My guess is the Mall of America has a hotel, does it not? It's got a wedding chapel.
It's got a JW Marriott.
It's Aventura Mall. Oh, major upset.
So, Allison, would you be willing to do a Zippy and the Juice hijinks where we go to the wedding chapel and have you marry maybe Patrick Peterson? Like radio hijinks.
Like actually get married to somebody?
Or
like
Terry
legally,
Bradshaw.
like, get married?
Like go and have a ceremony and let us.
Will Kane.
Let us. Will Kane.
Will Kane's married.
Marry Stephen A.
Marry Stephen
Marry
Stephen A.
Stephen A.
Please.
Stephen A. Let him write the vows. Oh, we'd all go there. Wait a minute. Are you going to be sitting at a table in the Mall of the Americas with Stephen A., Allison?
Yes, I am. Yes, we're sharing a table.
You're sharing a table. How about sharing a forever?
Yes.
I mean, it's happening.
Yes.
I mean, what? No, I'm not. Yeah.
Okay. This feels like
about
sexual
Stephen A.
harassment.
No, this feels like weird. It's
That's true.
weird. It's
Okay.
weird. I don't want to get married, but if it's for the show and you guys need me to get married,
All right.
I guess I'll do it.
She said yes. She said yes. This is so beautiful. Mall of the Americas. It'll be so romantic. You'll smell like orange chicken.
I think the bourbon chicken is usually the featured sample on the toothpick.
Oh, yeah.
It's not orange chicken. It's not sesame
it's
chicken.
They hook you in with the bourbon.
Guillermo, put it in. Put it on the poll, please, at Levitard Show. Is it always bourbon chicken on the sample at the mall that they lure you into their den of inequity with?
That might be a 90%er.
Is it always bourbon chicken?
It's always.
I feel like
it
it's
should
been
be 100%.
I feel like it's been orange chicken.
No. In fact, even the Asian joints, they're selling bourbon chicken.
Wait a minute. Are you sure that it's not General Tao's chicken?
It's bourbon chicken.
Bourbon chicken, man.
Am I sure? I mean, I've eaten entire meals just
me.
walking around the food court at a mall.
Whenever
It's
you send me out to the mall to pick stuff up for you, I'm always eating the bourbon chicken.
Guillermo, put it on. Put that on the poll, and also please look up for me other things that we can find in this Mall of America that evidently this is actually what's happening in the sports media. We like to show you behind the curtain to show you that the emperor has no clothes. And the media is descending on a food court this week to cover the Super Bowl, America's most popular sport, multi-billion-dollar industry built upon the broken bodies of warrior men. The media is descending on a food court. Stephen A. Smith is going to be at the food court in Minneapolis as we go to cover America's most popular sport as football. This is what football does. I want you to imagine a bunch of animals being herded into the back of one of these horse trucks. Now I want you to imagine it's me and Windhorse and Stephen A. and Ryan Clark and Stu Gatz and the set to PTI, and we're all being herded into this truck that's going to go to a Minneapolis food court, get emptied. We're all going to spill into near, the Chinese food and the Orange Julius.
A Sparrow.
Yeah, we're going to.
The Orange Julius is fantastic.
And that is where the sports media will dine and will create content for you for a week from America's most popular sport. And Nasty Nestor's going to be there from Baltimore, and there are going to be a lot of people with plumber's butt wandering around the food court, because when you're at a food court, what do you want to see more than 300-pound plumber's butt?
Oh, the samples are going to last, 3 minutes?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Sarah Goose is going to be wandering through there because he's a prostitute this time of year. Like, he'll broadcast on behalf of breadcrumbs and adult diapers. He doesn't care. Anything. Saragusa is wandering to Minneapolis with his hand out right now.
He is the lock of all locks in terms of who will be their shilling product.
Yes, shilling stuff. Here's Wacky Fat Man, and he's been living off of this for 15 years, longer than Louis Anderson. Wacky Fat Man, Tony Saragusa, on behalf of adult diapers.
That was a real thing.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Should Saragusa's agent be ashamed of himself? Seriously.
Oh, he's doing what he's got to do.
Seriously. Honestly. What? No. Let's have this conversation for a second. The adult diapers company gets together and has a meeting. And they're like, who do we get? Who do we get? Let's go sports. Well, sports aren't really a place where you'd find adult, diapers, bigger, stronger, fitter, all that stuff.
Also, who's going to say yes to this? It's such a weird pitch.
Right. Why would anyone say yes to this? And then somebody says, you know what? I was watching 25th Hour last night. Ed Norton, Spike Lee, and the Russian mafioso, Tony Saragusa, seemed like somebody who might hawk adult diapers.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Okay, we got him. Lock down Saragusa.
I don't think that's a source of shame, though, for the agent, right? He should be, that's a heck of a sell, don't you think?
Well, let's see what the poll comes back. Should Tony Saragusa's agent be ashamed of himself for pairing his client with an adult diapers commercial?
It's a new, I can sell Isu and Eskimo. I can sell Depends with Tony Saragusa.
That's correct. That is good. It should be Isu and Eskimo, sand at the beach, all that stuff. Yeah, sell sand at the beach. How does that work? How are those marketing people still employed? Are those people running industries now? We parlayed Tony Saragusa.
Oh, they had to have gotten promotions with that campaign. Easy.
I remember being at Super Bowl Radio Row. This is a true story. And Saragusa is, I don't even know how you would describe how he walks. It's waddling and epic. It's epic waddling. Okay. Because he's 330 pounds or whatever he is.
He's Saragusa.
Yeah, he's Saragusa. He's the goose.
Right. Good job, Dan.
I beat you to it. That's a fine. So
is it?
Yeah,
it should be.
It should be. If I beat you to the nickname,
yes,
you know what? If that's right. If I beat you to the nickname, it's a fine. Yes, $1.
Let me see if I have some money on it.
It's going to
be. Yeah, I don't have any.
I just love the idea. Saragusa was walking through Radio Row, and you know those Cuban pastelitos? The Cuban pastelitos, they are flaky and they have
oh yeah.
Yeah, Wawa.
Oh yeah.
Wawa, there's a meat one, there's cheese pastelitos.
Okay. And so but this is how the conversation went. So Saragusa's walking through and he's got all of those flakes and all of those crumbs on his moobs, like coating his moobs. And I just say to him, Tone, what you hawking? And crumbs fly out of his mouth as he says, flowers.
Here comes the money.
I'm like, what says flowers? What says flowers more than this guy with just crumbs all over the front of his shirt?
The goose.
Don Le Batard.
I hate that there are a bunch of people on Radio Row, all of them with plumbers' butt, sitting around elbowing each other, big dogs and little dogs and yapping dogs and rabid dogs, sitting there waiting for the shortstop for the Seattle Mariners to make his way through.
Stugats.
We have plumber's butt, but our butts are in Miami.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Joe Thomas seems like our kind of guy. We think we can have some fun with him. He's the exceptional left tackle for the Cleveland Browns, and he's been all over ESPN the last couple of days, and the graphics that accompany him are all insulting. It's just 1-31 in his last 32 games, has played with 20 Browns quarterbacks since arriving in Cleveland. And so I just want to talk to him about that and how terrible his hair is. Roy, what were you telling me about Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens during the break?
All right, so far with half of the Hall of Fame ballots counted,
both Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens have 65% of the vote.
Wow.
Okay, so this should be interesting. Well, Greg Cody of the Miami Herald, who is musty and mummified, he's got a Hall of Fame vote, and he has been anti-steroids, and yet he this year voted for both Bonds and Clemens.
I think both those guys last year were in the 50s, maybe low 50s, so that's a pretty big jump. They have 4 more years to get in after this year.
Well, now in retrospect, in history, there will be good 30 for 30s done on steroids.
No doubt.
But history will look back on steroids as the medicine that saved baseball, and while we clucked and clucked and clucked about how bad it was for everybody and what a moral decay it is for America, and we threw these guys in front of congressional hearings to answer questions, history will record that we were the laughingstock in judging it that way, because Bonds and Clemens are going to get all the rewards they deserve, and A-Rod is now running all of baseball. A-Rod has every broadcasting job in the media.
Yep.
And you chased him through the streets and banned him from the sport for a year. Like, the most overblown thing of my journalism lifetime is the reaction to steroids.
The media reaction, though, not the fans. I don't think the fans ever really cared.
No, it was the fans for a long time, and then the media got carried away with it, and we did it for years and years and years, and then people became numb to it the way they're numb to NCAA violations. But no, that was not a media creation. Media and fans did care for a long time about the integrity of games and cheating and steroids. But now look at what's happening. All these guys work in baseball. They're still making money off of baseball. It's one of the great scams of our lifetime. Steroids were great for baseball and everyone in baseball.
Yeah. Manny's sitting at 23%, though.
Manny's at 23%.
I mean, I'm not saying he's Bonds, but man, he's pretty close.
Mike, why are you laughing? Yeah, Manny's at 23%. Why? The whole thing's so stupid and random. Like,
Yes.
we threw Bagwell and Biggio in as if they weren't, like, eating pills in the batter's box. Like, dude, tell me, wait a minute. Guillermo, put this on the poll. Mike, you're going to have to hit the reckless speculation sounder.
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good.
You've seen in the movies the desperate guy who goes straight to the prescription bottle and just pours the pills into his face and starts crunching on whatever the maximum dosages are. Bagwell and Biggio spent a decade doing that in the batter's box. I'm not accusing them of opioid use. I'm just saying they weren't chewing gum. They were chewing pharmaceutical. Needles. Those orange cases that all of the pills come in, there were shards of that in their gums.
They just stopped opening up the cases.
Seriously, though, in the history of the sport, is there anyone that you think is more likely to chew on pills in the batter's box than the middle of the lineup for that Astros team?
For me, it's just Bagwell.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't Caminiti around there somewhere?
Oh, Caminiti, I forgot.
Caminiti.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to amend what I previously said about steroids being good for baseball and everyone in baseball. Caminiti died. Although I think the drug of usage there probably wasn't steroids that killed him. I'm no corner. I'm not CSI Ted Danson.
A couple seconds ago, you asked me why I was laughing. You remember Tony Rizzo? This dude?
If you're one of the people out there that is planning a parade for 0-16, I will fight you. Come down and see me right now. I am at Buffalo Wild Wings.
That dude?
Yeah.
Well, he recently took... Yeah, he's back. He's back. He's back in a big way.
Oh, Rizzo's back?
He's back, and he's taking shots at our next guest. He is taking big-time
All right,
shots.
well, I'm going to... we can't wait to play this for Joe Thomas, menacing Joe Thomas in 10 minutes.
We will spring it on Joe.
All right, so I'm going to hear it the first time, too? All right. Well, that's an excellent radio tease, Mike. You are good.
Yes.
You're good.
Yes.
That's the radio business. We surprise the left tackle of the Cleveland Browns in 10 minutes by unleashing a radio gas bag on him and on his unsuspecting mullet haircut head.
You want a 1.5 second taste.
Please.
A little taste.
Yes. Just give us a taste. Just a nibble. Hold on. Everybody back off. Hold on. Don't hog it. Nobody get greedy. Let's back off just a little bit to snort here. Just a little bit.
He's coming to my world, baby.
Oh, that's some good bourbon chicken.
Oh, Rizzo's coming after the left tackle for the Cleveland Browns. Give me a little snort. Give me another snort. Another bump of the Rizzo Pure.
He's coming to my world, baby.
Feud next.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you are confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you the same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you are getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz. That's rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
I listened to Dan's show while I was in Florida last week, you know. I listened every day. Came in the afternoons. He's got a good show.
Stugotz.
It's got a very good show. Oh, it's impeccably produced. I mean, oh, goodness. That is like a training show for kids on how to produce radio.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
We love Joe Thomas. He's going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Serena Williams is slated to return to competitive tennis next month at the Fed Cup. Following the Cavaliers' 114-102 loss to the Spurs, Coach Tyronn Lue said that it's finally time to shake up his lineup. Please. And finally, Uber's CEO told Bloomberg that there will definitely be full autonomous taxis, but we still may have to wait 10 to 15 years for it to happen.
Guillermo, was that Cavs thing in the time capsule? Was that something that was in the time capsule of signs for sure that that LeBron is leaving?
Let's look and see.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, 2 things last night on the time capsule.
Yep, it's there.
The lineup change, which is forthcoming on the time capsule. Also, LeBron will start doing things on social media to cause a stir.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Congratulating
very good.
himself.
Yes, that was the height of narcissism
No,
right
and
there.
he was liking things, liking new Heat uniforms.
And that Boogie Cousins tweet yesterday, man. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
All right. I feel really deeply sorry for this excellent schlub. Like, this guy is really excellent at football.
I think everyone does.
I mean,
is there
he
anyone
is
doesn't
so
feel sorry
good.
for
He's
him?
a damn 10-time Pro Bowler. He's a rose in a sewer. This poor guy. Joe Thomas with us now is so excellent at what he does, and they keep putting him on ESPN, and the graphic is always 1-31 in his last 32 games, or has played with 20 Browns quarterbacks. So, Joe, thank you for being on the show, but is there any one graphic that they've put next to you in the last couple of days that is the single most, oh, come on, don't put that with my name.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. You know, I don't even see those graphics, so it's hard for me to get too upset about that.
Oh, you're just hearing about this for the first time?
Yeah, I actually did not know I've only won one game in the last couple of years, so now I'm offended.
I do, though. I feel terrible for you. Are you wandering around like you're a giant, wealthy man who is excellent at what he does? When you wander around, do you feel the people pitying you?
It's not palpable until I come on your show, my friend.
They don't approach like, hey, we're sorry, Joe.
Nobody
We're sorry, Joe.
stinks so much. You are so good at football, dude. I just want people to know it, but they can't under the present conditions.
Well, I appreciate that. Maybe I need to start wearing a kick me sign or something like that, so people really have a little more appreciation for my talents on the field.
Well, let me ask you this: as someone who has enjoyed your work the last couple of days on ESPN, do you enjoy broadcasting and being funny and being light and podcasting more than you do football? Because you really do seem to enjoy what you're doing.
I am enjoying the last few days here. I've really enjoyed the podcast. I like the radio. I like that stuff because it's a little lighter. You can kind of go in any direction you want to go in, and it's not a little 30-second bite about, talking about this clip of this player or anything like that. So it has been fun. I like joking around. I like being light and taking my career and all those things kind of less serious than some guys.
Well, is there anything that you'd like to talk about now outside of the purview of football that just has you fascinated? Things outside, because you seem to be, you got drafted and you were fishing. You were fishing even though you were taken in the top 5. Like, football just seems to be this ancillary thing that you're great at because you're giant, but you have other things that interest you.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a Renaissance man. I like a lot of different things. I like talking politics, entertainment, football, basketball, you name it. I'm somebody that just enjoys a good-hearted conversation.
All right, so are you like fired up about the Oscars? Like, are you interested in doing movie reviews?
Well, or not? Actually, that's the one thing I don't really get into is the movies, just because I don't have a whole lot of time.
What's the thing you're most passionate about other than football, outside of sports? Give us something.
And family.
Oh, boy. I like the outdoors. I would say that's probably boring, but I love getting outside, fishing, hunting, camping, all that type of stuff. That's kind of how I grew up in Wisconsin.
So how good is Joe Thomas as an outdoorsman? Like, can you tell some majestic story of like a bear being scared of you?
Yeah, there was a lot of bears that were scared of me growing up. I kicked their ass all the time. But no, that's a great question. I think I'm about a C+ outdoorsman. I'm getting there. I'm trying to do a little bit better, and maybe, when I retire someday, I'll have a little bit more time. Maybe I can bump that up to like a B-. All
right. So how does this work though? Does it work with, are you all guns on the outdoorsman, or you might somebody that would chase down a boar like Channing Crowder used to do, go with bow and arrow, or maybe even just gut it with a knife?
I'm not sure I got the courage to chase a hog with a knife. I've seen some of those things up close, and they could definitely do some real damage, and I'm kind of a chicken when it comes to
it sounds like you're the wimp of the outdoors world.
Yeah, that's why I gave myself a C+.
Right. You're pretty good in this whole barbaric world where men fight each other, but it seems like jungles aren't your thing, Thomas.
Yeah, I try to avoid those. I'd rather just go toe-to-toe with like a 350-pound D lineman.
All right. Do you know who this Rizzo person is, this gas bag in your radio market who
you know him?
Who has been attacking you? Do you know who this person is?
Yeah, he's one of my biggest podcast fans of the Tomahawk Show, so I really appreciate him listening. He's a loyal follower, and he really definitely likes to discuss topics from the show on his show, so I appreciate him.
All right, well, he evidently is at war with you. I haven't heard any of this sound, but let's hear it together as we try to agitate the left tackle for the Cleveland Browns.
Does Joe Thomas understand that when he's done playing for the Browns, no one's going to give a crap about him? These players don't understand it, folks. They don't. They all want to be your best friend when they're done playing. When they're playing, they can't call you. They can't come in. They can't do anything. When they're done, check out my Tomahawk podcast. Oh, I'll get right on that, Joe. You know what I'll remember Joe Thomas for? Losing.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow,
this
Thomas,
guy.
man.
This guy.
Oh,
my God. But you got to rip him. You got to come back over the top, Thomas.
Hold on. We got more.
We got more sound. Let's see if we can get...
more. Then you rip him.
Let's see if we can get Joe Thomas even more agitated.
He's coming to my world, baby. You're coming to... I'm a made man in this town, in this media. You're coming to my world. You gotta earn your way in my world. You don't just get a free pass because you were good at playing tackle.
That's right. Yes, he does.
Good luck with the Tomahawk, Joe.
I do appreciate the 2 Tomahawk drops there for me. It's a big podcast out there, number 2 on iTunes right now. So I really got to say thanks to Tony for being such a fan. And that's a misconception about me. People think that they can kind of get under my skin, or they think they can rile me up or get me upset by taking shots at me. But really, it just makes me get a good laugh. And that's kind of what I enjoy about the media.
That's nice, and that's jolly, and that's fun, and that's great. But again, you're now in Rizzo's world, Joe Thomas, and I don't think you realize what that means, and I don't think that you realize how unprepared you are for what he is going to rain down on that terrible haircut of yours.
He's coming to my world, baby.
Whoa.
Wait, can we talk about this haircut for a second?
Yeah, you know what?
Are you going for Barry Melrose? What are you doing there?
I am. He's been a hero of mine, since I was a little boy. I grew up in Wisconsin, a great hockey state, God's country up there. And I always said if I was ever going to be on ESPN, I really need to go with the Barry Melrose look and represent all my hockey friends back in Wisconsin.
Nice.
How much trepidation do you have about now entering Tony Rizzo's world?
I'm frightened. Actually, I hope they make a T-shirt that says something about Tony Rizzo's world that I could wear on my award-winning Tomahawk podcast, because it seems like he really has something out for me. I'm not exactly sure why, but we'd love to have him on the Tomahawk Show so he can beef it up with me and tell me all the reasons why he's such a big fan of the Tomahawk Show.
You're coming to I'm a made man.
Made man.
He's a made man in this podcast world.
I tell you what, he's really playing up that rivalry that's not there.
Okay. All right, Joe, we always delight talking to you. Thank you for making the time for our show, but I am just curious. I could say this, I hope, without insulting you, and I'm told that the podcast...
You can't insult me.
The podcast is a fun listen. But did you think to yourself, like, just in your spare time, I don't know, you've had a lot of head banging over the course of your career. Man, the world really needs another podcast, and I'm the left tackle to give it to him.
Well, I'm not sure if you know, but I was the first lineman in NFL history, so I figured that being the first podcaster in NFL history would be a nice segue into my post-football career.
Well done, Don.
All right.
But hey, I got one more thing real quick, Dan. I know that you like to talk about my hair yesterday. I'm going to challenge you. I don't think you have the courage to go with the mullet over for an entire show, and I would really like to see that. I'd like to come back and we could mullet off together.
All right. The mullet competition
are you down with
against
that?
Joe Thomas.
Are you
Okay,
down?
but wait a minute.
What Thomas is saying,
no courage.
Wait, Joe, just so we're clear, if he does this, you're going to come down and hang out with us for a show? Is that
I
what
would
you want
love to.
Okay.
I'll hang out with you for 24 hours straight.
Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that. But
I do.
But wait a minute. So my big prize on having a mullet off with you is that A, you would take yet another L, as if you haven't had enough of those lately. But B, my big prize is that I'd have a better mullet than you.
Hey, man, the mullet's coming back. You watch. People are going to start wearing this on TV coming soon. And don't forget the comb over aspect. Yeah. It's a mullet over. It's not just your regular 1980s mullet.
Right. Okay. Well, welcome to ESPN, Joe. It's been a pleasure having you around here to kick around for the last couple of days.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe.
Dan Le Batard. Stugats.
When you have the hammer, you gotta use it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
I am not making this up when I say that I believe that I can nominate Joe Thomas in the history of sports excellence as a guy who deserves more of your pity because his excellence is not being rewarded by anything. I don't know who else I would go to on the list of people who are great at their jobs, but then you're not going to leave or stay. You're going to just cough in between. I'm going to have to worry. Okay, but I'm going to have to worry about you. You can't either cough quietly or leave. You need me to stop everything I'm doing to attend to the fact that you can't drink correctly?
I'm choking, man. Kind bar.
He just shoveled into his face. Mike, look at here. This is my daily joy, Mike. This is here's a garbage can. I mean, it should end like this. This is how it should end. You should die on air. Yeah, you should die on air. Okay. Always professional.
Yeah.
My daily existence, Mike, is I watch him slowly consume like rust rots pipe. Slowly consume a Kind bar every day, leaves crumbs all over the place, leaves crumbs on his shirt. He decided here, we were just during the break having a conversation about his health, and his last act was to just shovel pieces of chocolate and nuts into his mouth. And then, of course, it comes time to work, and he is neither at the microphone nor having left the studio. That's $5.
That's fine.
Oh, is it? See if I have any money. You were saying?
Mike,
I'm
not even kidding when I tell you that there has never been anyone I've ever covered in sports who I know to be excellent. Not Barry Sanders, not Calvin Johnson. Like, those guys lost in Detroit, but they're Hall of Famers, and everyone knows they're Hall of Famers, and no one questions the greatness of Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders. Joe Thomas has been this lonely excellence getting swallowed in Cleveland for a decade. The guy goes entire seasons without allowing sacks. I'm defying you to come up with someone who has deserved better more than Joe Thomas. Like, give me an athlete anywhere in the history of athletics where you're like, I know that guy was great, and yet he was betrayed by so many people around him, so many managements, that his entire career, a Hall of Fame career that would have been one of the most epic careers in the history of the sport, would get swallowed by just how awful Cleveland is at football.
Dan Marino?
I mean, but Marino made Super Bowls. People say Marino's among the best ever. Marino's among the most respected. Joe Thomas could walk in anywhere in America and nobody knows who the hell he is.
How about Barkley?
No, but I'm not doing this. Stugotz, look, we're talking about not winning the ultimate thing, and we're talking about an unending, unprecedented string of losing. I'm talking about Joe Thomas plays in the sewer of the NFL. It's barely professional football. Joe Thomas's team exists to be laughed at. That is not professional sports that Joe Thomas is playing. Joe Thomas is playing amateur sports against professionals. And he's the only one worth a damn for a decade in the entire organization. I just don't have a precedent to put it up against. Hall of Famers produce some winning. At some point along the way, you have a 9-7 season. You put together Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson quit because their greatness was merely getting them to 8-8.
I think you'll see it probably in baseball, because it's harder for one person. I mean, A-Rod won an MVP on a last-place team. Mattingly had a career where he didn't make the playoffs until late.
Andre Dawson in one of the most gangster moves of all time. Guillermo, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. One of the gangster moves of all time. Did you know that Andre Dawson went to the Cubs before his MVP season and offered a blank check as, here, pay me whatever you want, and then had an MVP season? It was one of the most gangster things ever done in the history of sports.
Yeah, so I think baseball is comparable. I've never really seen anything quite like this in football. Barry Sanders made the playoffs. Joe Thomas has had one winning season, went 10-6. They didn't make the playoffs. I mean, by virtue of being the Browns and having a 10-6 season, that should be a bye right into the Super Bowl.
Can we?
Do I have snot on my nose?
Well, I was just going to ask. Yes, you have.
I do?
Yes,
okay.
You have snot all
I'll
around.
Be back, guys.
On the right nostril.
You have snot on your nose. But I want.
So does Clooney.
I want to address here publicly. You can go ahead and clean the snot off your face.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I want to address publicly just the general slovenly grossness of Stugotz. We are on national radio. All his dreams have come true, Mike Ryan. He is at the height of all his broadcasting excellence, and all he's doing is complaining that he's got to get up at 8:20 in the morning to do Wingo and Golic. Like, he's arrived at all his dreams, and he's complaining about all of the dreams.
Oh, I got to find this article that he sent me yesterday.
Okay, but I want to show you what he did for an effort in terms of working during this segment, okay? He had an incredible coughing fit that ended up with snot all over his face. And while I was trying to get off the ground a conversation about Joe Thomas that might have been mildly interesting, all he came in with was Charles Barkley, Marino, any other sports radio people who have never won a title. Like, between coughing and being awful, I don't know which was worse, his analysis or his general hygiene. I don't know which one's worse.
He sent me this thing yesterday. I gave him too much credit with an article. Of course, it's not an article. It's just a YouTube video.
Yep, easier.
It's not you. Commuting is bad for your health.
There you go.
See what I mean?
So are Kime bars.
Okay, but here's the thing about Stugotz, okay, because it's fairly amazing, and he doesn't realize that right now Disney should get a refund for what he did this segment.
Yeah, they should.
Disney should get an entire
they're deserving of it. They're not going to get it, but they are deserving.
Right.
Of it. Yeah.
But we were just marveling as a show at how you've arrived at all your dreams, and now all you're doing is complaining about it.
Yeah. Well,
how is that possible? How is it possible that you are now complaining about having to appear on Golic and Wingo?
I dream too big. Feeling better now, though. Thanks for your concern.
I mean, honestly, I don't think, Guillermo, put it on the poll, has anyone in the history of this company been worse during a radio segment than Stugotz was during this one?
Dan Le Batard.
Are you not alarmed by how much Stugotz ate last night?
Stugotz.
I had no idea. He ate a lot. He was pretty gross when I left. I had no idea that he went on this, grazing.
Well, here's the weird thing about Stugotz, too, though. When Stugotz eats here, he never finishes anything. I know, because I'm always cleaning it up.
It's infuriating.
After he's left.
He leaves one wing.
No, but
in case someone wants it. I mean,
just Eat the wing.
I thought Roy always ate the leftover wing.
Roy always throws it away.
All right, I'm a slub.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
This radio show is the biggest thing in AM radio, AM sports. It's the biggest thing in sports podcasting. It's a big thing. And as it grows, I realize that we are a marching band to nowhere, that we continue to make a lot of noise, make a racket, keep getting attendant audience. And what I wanted to ask you is, our last effort on this front to help Central Florida, the University of Central Florida, was a disaster, a total failure. We bought T-shirts. We wanted to declare them national champions. And it just fell apart. After a lot of planning, the whole thing fell apart. So I am hesitant to take this on as a cause, but someone help me with this, please. Mike, do you believe that this marching band to nowhere has the power to get the one-handed linebacker for the University of Central Florida a scouting combine invite because he's being wronged because he has one hand? This kid is great at football. I don't understand why you would not invite him to your combine, and I'm bothered on his behalf, Stugats, that he has not been invited to get a chance for the NFL because they are underestimating him because he has one hand.
I mean, if he's good enough, though, don't you think? I understand what you wanted to do.
He is good enough, but it's the same thing I've been telling you about this football team. That football team was good enough to deserve the national championship last year and was denied it by rule, and now they're doing the same damn thing to their one-handed linebacker who I've watched for 2 seasons be a total defensive menace. Nobody can block him. His brother is in professional football, and nobody can block this kid. He should get a combine invite.
That's fine. I don't think it's some sort of conscious decision the NFL is making collectively. If they thought he was good enough, they'd invite him to the combine.
How can you not invite him? How can you not?
Because they don't think he's good enough, Dan.
Oh, for the love of
I'm
God.
not saying he's not good enough. I have no idea. In fact, I tend to side with you that he probably should be invited, but that's what they're telling you. They don't think that he is.
He was a second-team All-American, and I'm reading some articles. This isn't open and shut. Their process of inviting people to the combine is not over yet. So by raising awareness and banging a loud drum here, apply some public pressure to the NFL. This guy deserves it on merit, not just because we're yelling in a microphone.
I am telling you, this is a true, and it's heartfelt, and it's real, and it's some of the best stuff that you find in sports. It's the reason I got into the sports business 25 years ago, because it could get you in the feelings. I remember watching the University of Central Florida and making fun of the University of Central Florida because, of course, they were 0-12 and losing to Furman. They had a linebacker who had one hand. Of course, they're going in the discount bin to get their recruits. Of course, that team is 0-12. And then I see that kid, and he is the conference player of the year on defense last year. And then I see that kid this year, and his team goes unbeaten all year, and he was there for 0-12, and now he's there for perfect. And not only do I see him, but I see him wrecking offense after offense with one hand, going in there and stripping the ball with his nub, intercepting passes. And when that kid stood up in the backfield against Auburn with his arms raised and one of the hands was missing and he was screaming at the sky, I was palpably moved in a way that, holy bleep, kid, I don't fancy myself a cynic, but holy bleep, you've made me look like a fool. You are an unbelievably moving, inspirational story. And the NFL ought to be selling that. You can invite that kid to your combine because that story is amazing. He's nobody's pity project. This kid might get to the NFL with one bleeping hand because he's that good at football.
It's something you would never watch, the combine. Would you be more inclined to watch it if he was participating at the combine?
I mean, I don't even know honest to God, I don't have any idea how he does a bench press. I don't even know what do you do?
There's a prosthetic that he wears to help him do it. I'm reading some reports out of the Senior Bowl, which practices just started up this week, and day one he was very impressive. This guy will totally get an invite to the combine. He's just too good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mike. I can't believe what I don't understand. I don't mean to minimize this by poking fun at a disability, because at times we have talked about the idea of, if you're missing fingers or hands for some reason, that's one of the places in the modern age where we can have some fun. at your expense. I am watching this kid play football, and I don't understand how he's doing it. This is someone who is dealing with a disability, and he's playing football. And he's not only not impeded in any way that I can tell, he's making the kind of plays that you would say to yourself, those plays can't be made by a one-handed person. You need two hands to play that sport.
All right, so what do you want to do? Let's get behind this. Let's be the show that helps him get an invite to the combine.
I want to know how we put some of our cruddy little power behind somebody and rattle some cages and get somebody an invite who deserves it, because how many different ways would you like Shaquem Griffin to prove to you that he merits the highest of respect? And at the very least, if you will not afford him the highest of respect, just afford him an opportunity. Give him an opportunity as a league, because it's an unbelievable story. And he's earned it. And in every turn, man, this kid has been doubted. He's been told throughout. We've talked to him a couple of different times. He's been told throughout, you can't, you won't, you mustn't, don't try. And at every step of the way, he overachieves. He overachieves beyond anybody's imagination.
But, Dan, I'm guessing just a kid like him who's been through so much, he doesn't want to be invited to something because he has one hand. He doesn't.
I don't care. I don't care why I get the opportunity, as long as I get the opportunity. If I love football,
that's fine. I'm guessing. I have no idea. I don't know him very well. I don't know him at all.
It'd be better if it was on merit. Of course, it'd be better if it wasn't
I bet
pity.
you he would say, no, man, I don't want to be invited like that. I want to be invited on my own merit.
But I'm saying that he should be, and that he's overlooked it's something. Look, man, there are a million other causes out there where more injustices are being wrought, but I just think this is such an obvious one that benefits everybody. Why the hell wouldn't you give that a chance because you want that in your league?
Sure.
I mean, I cannot tell you. I marvel. I have enjoyed watching that team play for 2 years, at least in part. I mean, their offense has been great, but at least in part because I love watching that kid achieve and overachieve.
This is a wrong that will be righted. Shaquem Griffin will be invited to the NFL Combine. There's plenty of time for them to do it. There's plenty of cases of them adding.
Are you saying whether we do anything or not?
He
so
will
if
be.
you think he's going to get invited, we might as well start it right now, and then we can take the credit for him getting invited. Yes, exactly.
It's honestly, he's probably going to get invited because of what he's doing at the Senior Bowl anyways. And just on merit, too. And this is a bad look for the league. Why wouldn't you invite him just to avoid this bad look?
Well, Mike, how about this, though? How about this? You guys, I mean, back when baseball was something that people cared about as America's national pastime, all of us were marveling at the idea of Jim Abbott, a major league pitcher. None of us understood how he could be a major league pitcher with only one arm. How do you use the glove? How do you bat? He was an exceptional athlete as a hitter. Why wouldn't you welcome that in the greatest possible terms to your league? The idea of a menacing dude running around out there playing football with one bleeping hand. Like someone in the mailroom needs to be let go for an invite not to have been sent to that guy. Like, it's just the easiest thing in the world.
I'd like him to be a part of the NFL, and I think that he probably will. But I do think whether he goes to the Combine or not, I think someone's going to draft him.
Were you listening to anything I said that segment?
No, because I have snot in my eye.
Say hello to my little friend.
How were you worse this segment than you were last segment?
Oh, no, I crushed this segment, man. I mean, listen, I made the point that if Mike thinks he's going to get there regardless, then we might as well take credit for it and start the campaign right now.
That was the one good point you made during it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick, man. I was here for you when you were sick. I mean, what do you want me to do? I don't feel good, man.
You didn't cough last segment because you were sick. You coughed last segment because you don't know how to eat.
Yeah, it's Shaquem, not Shakam, and that's a fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep resentment.
Cash more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats. 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Dan Le Batard.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Are you disturbed at all that Stugats thinks extortion and blackmail are normal business practices?
Stugats.
It has to drive you crazy because you are smart, you are well thought out, you are reasonable, you are balanced, and I just come in with blackmail, COB.
And they love you more.
Yep, spot on is what they're saying.
I'm so envious. I want their love.
You're not going to get it.
Their love's important to me. I want the love of dumb people.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Chris Sims going to be there in a half hour, 12:30 Eastern. Here's your SportsCenter update. Kevin Durant was ejected late in the Warriors' 123-112 win versus the Knicks, and believes
why does he keep getting ejected?
Here's why, at least according to him. He believes referee James Williams was targeting him all throughout the game. Durant now has 4 ejections and 10 technical fouls this season. It's a weird place where the players are with the referees.
Well, but Durant himself, though, like he is fighting this feud where he's got the overwhelming side and he wants to fight everyone and nobody wants to fight him. We're like, we get it, Kevin. You're on the best team. Leave us alone.
I still want to fight him.
By far, the Golden State Warriors lead the league in ejections over recent history. And I think part of it is just they know that they're so good that they're not necessarily needed for an entire game.
This feels like Stugats, how Stugats would work. Well, we've seen it today with snot all over his face.
Yeah.
Once the machine gets so powerful, you could just get ejected and take a segment or two off. They take quarters off at a time. They might have it written into their contracts. The Warriors each of them only has to play 3 quarters worth of basketball a season.
I'm getting ejected tonight, guys.
Yes, I'm going to be the one ejected. I want to take a break.
I mean, they still won.
Yeah, of course. Well, of course, they still won.
They were playing the Knicks. He annoys me. They annoy me. I've said this well before Kevin Durant even got there. They are so spoiled and so entitled. And it starts with Steve Kerr and it trickles down to the players. They don't get calls. They go bananas,
I know,
man.
but I love that they are better than everyone else and they know it. I always want more of that with my sport.
All right. A vandal has caused thousands of dollars in damage to the Field of Dreams by driving a vehicle onto the site made famous by the 1989 movie. That is sad. And finally, rapper Machine Gun Kelly will play Tommy Lee in an upcoming Netflix biopic about Motley Crue adapted from the classic 2001 memoir, The Dirt. Really upset about that Field of Dreams thing. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Stugats, this is a disagreement I've been having in sports with people for 20 years. I always think it's more interesting to have the sports team that knows it's great, that is great, knows it's great, and reminds you at every turn that it is great. I prefer that to the Patriots and the Spurs. The Spurs, we all know how great they are. I think they'd be even more fun if they knew how great they were and decided to show us the way the Warriors do.
If they were telling you and showing you just how great the Patriots were. You're right.
They're
kind of boring.
Well,
right.
You would love that if it was your team. Every sports fan would love it if they had the team. Hey, we know we're great, and we throw in your face that we're great.
Sure.
And you rarely get to see us humbled because of how great we are. First of all, every fan base would want that as a feeling.
100%.
But I understand why it agitates you to be on the receiving end of what the Warriors are doing. Of course, we're going to get annoyed and frustrated by the Warriors because they're beating everyone up and they know they're better than everyone and there is no way to dethrone them.
I mean, I like it as well. I can still be annoyed by it while it's going on. For me, Dan, I just don't like Kevin Durant doing it.
I know, but it's
he wasn't part of this from the beginning.
No, but
he was a piece.
What I am telling you is how great that is for the sport.
Yes.
To have this entity that you tune in just to see, hey, can someone beat them? Can the Rockets do it? You're tuning in the same way you tune into Alabama football.
Correct.
The way that you tune into Patriots games. Can someone do this? It's so great for the sport that not only that they are this, but that they behave this way. Behaving like they know it makes them the best and the villain. And that's great at the top of your sport.
Wasn't that Michael Jordan and the Bulls?
No.
But no, Dan, you would tune in every year to think maybe Carmelo's going to get him this year.
No, Michael Jordan and the Bulls were great, knew they were great, but never the villain. Never the villain.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
In
fact, the other teams were the Knicks were the villain, right?
You might tune in, can someone get him, the way you do with Brady.
Right.
But not like this. Like, I love this heel turn by the Warriors that they've got Draymond Green, and instead of following the Steph model, they're following the Draymond model. Hell, Dave Chappelle, just in the middle of his Netflix special, just threw out there, Draymond Green's the blackest name in sports. Chappelle just tossed it out there that it's the blackest name there can be. Draymond Green. They didn't go Steph's route. No, the Warriors are like, bleep you. We ride with Draymond. We're gonna kick you in the junk. Durant, I mean, this is an amazing thing to witness. Durant was on the angelic path to not being the evil LeBron James. He signs his contract extensions quietly as opposed to this egomaniac LeBron who has a television show to announce his free agency.
Do you remember his initial marketing strategy at Nike? It was like, hey guys, no, he is interesting. He does say stuff. It was all about how quiet Kevin Durant was, a quiet superstar, the anti-LeBron.
It is just such a great thing for that league that now traffics in petty and gossip to have at the top of its food chain a guy who's creating burner egg accounts on Twitter to argue with his critics. Because amazing as it is, Kevin Durant, they went and recruited Kevin Durant after losing in the finals. Steph Curry on bent knee, 2-time MVP of the league. And the choice at that point could have been, we're going to do cooking shows with Steph's wife, who's adorable. They're America's family. They've got a father who played in the NBA. It's so cute. And Durant's like, bleep this. I follow Draymond. Ejections all over the place. Teas all over the place. No, we're not going the cuddly, adorable Steph Curry route as a team. Nope. Eat this. Bleep you. Whoa. Whoa, that's great. Hey, honestly, they should roll into town on a bus. Eat this, bleep you.
And it's working.
Oh!
It's working like the heel wrestler that tells me my town is full of fat, lazy people.
Mike, how about this? They don't even bother to win at home. But, man, do they love going on the road and kicking your ass.
Oh, yes. That's their favorite thing to do.
Oh, my
now.
God.
Yes,
yeah, because it used to be adorable. Oh, Steph from 3, Oracle's going crazy. No, now it's hissing defiance. We follow Draymond Green. A guy that Chappelle is telling you is the blackest name in black.
Yeah. 21-4 on the road.
Chappelle says that. That's been notarized by Chappelle. And Draymond knows how great he is. And Draymond will tell you how great he is. And Draymond knows how great they are. And Draymond will enjoy the whole idea of, we're going to kick your ass. And we're going to tell you that we're going to kick your ass beforehand. Then we're going to kick your ass. And after we've kicked your ass, we're going to remind you that we kicked your ass.
Durant annoys me, though. I'm sorry.
That's fine. But it's great that they create feelings in you, Stugotz. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the feelings are. It's great that they create feelings in you.
I didn't have these feelings, though, until Durant got there. Like, I was fine with the Warriors until Durant got there.
But do you understand that that is good for their business?
100%.
That
yes,
you feeling anger is so much better than you feeling indifference because you know the NBA is a foregone conclusion because they're too good.
Yes, very good for them.
Now you're rooting against them.
Yes.
Now there's hostility in the air, and, you know, the one time they lost in the last few years is because Draymond literally couldn't stop kicking people in the junk.
Right.
You were never rooting against the Spurs and their quiet excellence. You weren't invested. Some of those of NBA finals are the lowest rated
finals. The worst.
Finals.
Pistons Spurs was the worst. You didn't care at all because those teams were just great, and who cares?
It's kind of like the Heat down here, right?
But how about the bad boy Pistons? How about that? I longed for that time. Look how much you guys love the idea of the Clippers making their way to the Rocket, or the Rockets making their way to the Clippers locker room. Like the whole idea of it. The Warriors are now soaked somehow. What I thought was going to go the route of Steph Curry and the cooking shows with his wife, they're instead soaked in go bleep yourself.
Yeah, your point about Jordan never being the villain is valid because he couldn't be the villain because the bad boy Pistons and the Knicks were there.
That's right.
Right. But when Rodman got there, did they become the villain? When Dennis Rodman was there?
No, Rodman was shy at the beginning. Rodman was painfully shy. He'd break down crying during public appearances.
Yeah. Jordan was such a hero to everybody. He was always the good guy, and the person blocking Jordan from his destiny, they were the bad guy.
Rodman did bring a little of that to the Bulls because he brought that whole MTV reality show circus with him. So he brought some of that, and he was also playing with gender stuff before anybody else was playing with gender stuff, wearing dresses and being in drag.
But Mike is right. When you're trying to get through, and the Bulls were trying to get through them, and did get through them every year, Anthony Mason and Charles Oakley, it's hard to be the bad boy.
And Rodman did kick that cameraman, and that was a huge scandal when he was a Chicago Bull.
can't believe what a great thing that has become for the sport in the short term. The idea that this team is this. And the Miami Heat of those 4 years of LeBron James spent too much time trying to be liked. This team doesn't seem to care.
No,
they're going to swallow Curry, too. It's like those Tebow teams that Urban Meyer had in Florida where you could put the Tebow halo over it and it didn't matter that you had a murderer, Aaron Hernandez, in your huddle.
Yep.
They were going to put the Steph Curry halo over this huddle.
But he seems to want in on this.
No, but Draymond and Kevin, yes, that's exactly right. Steph wants to take the heel turn, too.
If I was the man I was 5 years ago, I would take a flamethrower to this place.
You do realize, Stugotz, that is also how, in terms of legacy building, if you believe in the idea that Kyrie Irving wanted to get out from LeBron's shadow because he wants to make his own name for himself, wants to do things differently because LeBron James is the old guard and he's the new guard, nobody's ever done it the way the Warriors appear to be choosing, which is the model on excellence is be Pete Sampras, be Tom Brady, be Derek Jeter, be Michael Jordan, never be bleep you. Bleep you, customer.
Right.
Like, I'm getting ejected. I don't care. I don't care that you're offended by how arrogant I am or how great I am. I'm going to be that great and that arrogant in your face.
Does it feel a little different because it feels like no one can beat them? At least with those Bulls teams, you did say to yourself, wow, maybe Portland can knock them off.
I think that if you choose to view it as ugly, the reason it would be ugly is the only reason they're doing it is because they know no one can beat them.
Right.
Like if you it's the ugliest side of sort of this cutthroat thing. The reason they're behaving ugly, and I'm stunned by it, is because they know you can't do anything about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're going to keep acting like this. What are you going to do?
Yeah. What are you going to do other than lose?
Beat us 4-7.
Don Le Batard.
I had a dream last night about the show that Stugotz was filling in for Joe Buck on his podcast, and Allison called me to tell me what a great job Stugotz did. And I realized this is a dream because Allison would never praise Stugotz. Stugotz would never fill in for Joe Buck's podcast that may or may not even exist.
And if I did, it wouldn't be good.
Factually, a lot of factual errors in your dream.
What a weird dream.
Yeah.
Stugotz.
So that's the height of your fantasies, Guillermo?
Well, maybe it was a nightmare. I don't know. It happened when I was asleep.
Thank you, Guillermo.
That's how dreams work.
Yep.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Right now on ESPN, the Michigan State doctor is facing 25 to 40 years in prison. He's awaiting sentencing for criminal sexual conduct involving gymnastics, aged girls. And Stugotz, you have teenage daughters, and so I imagined, as awful as some of these crimes are, the people who feel them most desperately and deeply are people who have teenage daughters, because you can imagine your daughter being corrupted or contaminated by the worst of sexual perversions in a way that's damaging later in life.
Sure.
What I want to ask you, though, about Michigan State, because now there is a storm, and the president of the university is probably going to get swallowed in this. And I'm just wondering, the nature of crimes against kids, are you guys good with just sort of the absolute, if you have one of those on your campus, president needs to go? And the reason I ask the question is because a lot of people are making the arguments on behalf of this president and 30 years of what they believe to be good work. But if this creeps onto your campus,
right,
where a doctor is allowed, enabled, that somehow people didn't know, and what you get is sexual crimes against young people, do you want to be discerning about that one, or do you want to be emotional and simply say, and I would understand if you did, an absolute, if that's on your campus, president, you're out?
Well, it's not just the 30 years of good work by the president. A lot of people are saying the president did exactly what the president was supposed to do when this arrived at their doorstep. This story in particular.
But when the flames climb on this, we saw it at Penn State. It's the worst sports scandal in the history of sports scandals. Once the flames climb on this,
right,
everyone ends up getting swallowed. And I ask you, and I ask the audience, where do I have to put the president's standing and impeachment for you to say, you know what? I don't think it's fair if the flames grab the president. Like, where do I have to put the person's credentials where you would say, nope, I believe that person is above accountability on this one. Or by nature of being the leader of a university, does that buck always stop with you? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question, by the way, because I would hate to be, obviously, the child who's a victim. I would hate to be the parent of childs who are victim, but I would also hate to be the president in that circumstance where everything I've done, whatever it is, it's not going to be enough. Nothing matters. My career ends on the spot with something that happened on my watch somewhere else on campus, and I just got to eat that one for life.
It's an interesting question. Just speaking as a parent here, I would want everyone, right up to the president, to be fired. Mm-hmm. I would. Mm-hmm. Like, how did you not know this was going on in your institute, on your campus? How did you not? No one ever spoke a word about this to anyone.
I get that.
How did it not get to you?
But do you understand why I also am scared of that mob once it starts moving? Once that starts moving, and I get it. That mob, once it starts moving, there's no argument to be won against it.
No, but Dan, I can't blame a single parent if that's how they feel.
Of course. Of course not. You'd be so angry. What a huge public betrayal. What a huge private betrayal. The idea that you send your kids off to university or you send your kids off to school in the name of learning, and that's what they learn under your administrator.
Correct. Like I send one of my daughters plays lacrosse and the other one is very into dance, and we send her to like a hardcore dance studio. She does all this stuff. And if I found out, I know the owners of the studio, but if I found out one of their instructors was doing something like that to my child, I would want to burn the whole place down.
I know, and how can one argue against that, right? But let's say you're in that mood, okay? Let's say you're in the rabid place that would totally be understandable of, I want to burn the whole place down. And now the person in front of you is saying, hey, I have daughters too. I didn't know about it. I've got an unimpeachable resume for 3 decades. Please don't swallow my career over this. And I can prove to you with 100% certainty that was not something that I could have done anything differently on that would have prevented your daughter's pain. Yeah. I'm just wondering if the humanity of that reaches people when you're understandably rabid about the worst crime that you can commit, which is sexual crimes against children.
I think you'd be able to reach some people, right? Just not everyone.
I don't know.
I'd like to think that maybe if that was put in front of me after I got through the emotion, right? And I don't know if you ever get, fully through it. I'd like to think maybe I'd be able to make a rational decision and give you a rational answer.
But if I separate you from the emotion and I say, hey, vengeance, do you think vengeance is the way to go here? Do you think the way to solve this is burn everything down? Very few people are choosing that as a route, are they? As the logical route toward a solution? Just burn it all down. But I get it. This is breaking news right now on ESPN. The doctor is just standing there and everyone is disgusted by the crimes that he is accused of. And he's going to get 25 to 40 years in prison. And that's going to be, the rest of his life is going to be an eternal suffering, because that's the worst place in the world for this kind of criminal. You cannot have this near your university. Like, you just can't have this on television. And if it climbs to the highest places and even unfairly engulfs your power structure, I don't know that there's anything in the modern age that you can do other than say, yep, that's going to cost you your job every time.
Dan Le Batard.
Stugotz is disgusting.
Stugotz.
Yep.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, he's at his grossest today. He's had mayonnaise all over his fingers all day.
It's good, man.
Stugotz is at his grossest today.
Yeah. Feels good. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Chris Sims going to be there in just a minute. Here's your SportsCenter update. Kevin Durant was ejected late in the Warriors' 123-112 win versus the Knicks, and believes referee James Williams was targeting him all throughout the game. Durant now has 4 ejections and 10 technical fouls this season. A vandal has caused thousands of dollars in damage to the Field of Dreams by driving a vehicle onto the site made famous by the 1989 movie. And finally, Hawaii's governor says he knew that the missile alert that gripped the state a couple of weeks ago was a false alarm. However, he couldn't log on to Twitter to calm Hawaiians' nerves because he forgot his password. Really? For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Mike, in honor of the Warriors getting ejected and technical fouls and Draymond Green being the general face and attitude of that team, what is the most bleep you team in the history of sports? Is it the bad boy Pistons? Is it the old Oakland Raider teams?
80 Canes?
Late 80s, early
Hurricanes.
90s, University of Miami.
Cowboys in the 90s,
Cowboys in the 90s.
That's a pretty good
great.
one.
That was just the Canes after college.
Yes, that was Canes after dark.
Yeah.
The Cowboys were Canes after dark.
It's just them older, man.
Yeah, it was Michael Irvin. It was the same guys.
Jimmy
Jimmy Johnson. That's right.
Out of here.
All right,
same exact guys.
Chris Sims with us now. We are at number 40. Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback in the world, according to Chris Sims of Bleacher Report, and I agree with him.
We're almost halfway home.
We're almost halfway there. The last, you might be interested in 50 through 40, so here it is. 50 is Mark Sanchez, 49, Teddy Bridgewater, 48, Kelly Clemens. That's a bit of an upset.
Kellen
Clemens being ahead of Teddy Bridgewater. Number 47, Chase Daniels. You are becoming surgically fast
Just
at that.
Chase Daniel. That's a fun.
Wow.
And
Maybe
what did I
you should
say?
read the list.
Chase
It's gonna cause you-
Daniels.
yeah.
It's a common mistake.
I'm keeping track.
All right. This is what I'm telling you, though. One day, your laser-like precision in getting me with the fines, that quickness, you're going to be startled by my MMA quickness as I sever a hole in your neck and you bleed out on air because you've done that to me again.
That would be a career ender.
Number 46, E.J. Manuel. Number 45, Blaine Gabbert. Number 44, Drew Stanton. Number 43, Matt Moore. Number 42, Trevor Siemian. And number 41 is Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, Chris Sims of Bleacher Report, the 40th best quarterback in the world and galaxy today is?
Mike Glennon, Chicago Bears.
Wow.
I agree. Glennon would be in the Super Bowl today if he were the quarterback of the Jags, correct?
Well, yes, I would agree. Yes, I mean, unfortunately, yes, I'm here to say that they wouldn't have taken a knee with 55 seconds and 2 timeouts. That's for sure.
Wait, that's where we should get to. Which of these quarterbacks would they not have taken a knee?
Honestly, there has been no greater proof of what Chris Sims saying is truth than 2 timeouts, 55 seconds left, and Jacksonville kneels because they don't want their quarterback doing something dumb.
Right, and I mean, I don't know if you guys saw like the Monday, press conference by Doug Marrone. I mean, he basically said, he goes, they do some cool coverages, and we're not very good in those situations all year long. So again, you just got to kind of be cryptic there. But the list, it's going to get interesting here soon. There's, I study this hard, as I've told you a million times, but I got some good names coming up here pretty soon. That I think you're going to be like, wow, okay, really?
All right, good tease, yes, good tease. We look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Thank you, Chris.
All right, guys. Have a good day. See ya.
You too, Chris. Love that guy.
He's right. This whole Blake Bortles thing's about to pivot into just Chris Sims' top 30 quarterbacks, and we're going to get offended at where Aaron Rodgers is.
It's going to get good.
It is.
I love that that we're only 30 in, and he says, soon it'll get interesting. We're 30 in. And soon it'll be interesting.
That's really the way you have to do it, I think, is which quarterbacks would you, if you had them on your team where you wouldn't take a knee with 2 timeouts and 55 seconds
honestly,
to go.
It's really insulting.
I'm beginning to think that maybe we should have done this in reverse order.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because the funny part is all the quarterbacks that are better than Blake Bortles. When we start getting to number 1, Tom Brady. What are we going to do with it?
Right.
Shocked that Tom Brady's better than Blake Bortles.
I think Sims is going to pivot. I think he has some fun ideas in store for us.
All right. Well, let's see. We've got 40 more days to figure it out.
We'll speak with him every day from Radio Row, the Mall of America food court.
Nice.
Well, Allison is really bothered by this. For those of you who don't know, the show doesn't enjoy Super Bowl week. I certainly don't enjoy Super Bowl week. I think it's the worst week of sports media coverage that we have, where we're just an infomercial on behalf of this big game. And all journalism gets thrown aside, and we just party for a week and give you predictions. Teddy Bruschi tells you that he thinks the Patriots are going to win. So that's what you're in for next week. And Allison is going to Minneapolis, but doesn't want to be going to Minneapolis. And so she's sad. What happened?
Who wants to go to Minneapolis? I mean, I don't mean to take shots of the city. I'm sorry. It doesn't really sound like a wonderful place.
It's going to be very
cold.
And so we're broadcasting. Everyone's broadcasting from the Mall of America. And we are going to have
food court.
From the food court of America. That is where ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, is sending you, Allison Turner, at considerable expense. We are sending you to a food court to go do journalism, to go find Patrick Peterson, see what he's selling, and bring him to a microphone so we could talk to him about being Patrick Peterson. And that is how we do entertainment in 2018.
I'm excited.
I'm curious to know how Dove soap made Patrick Peterson better.
That's what we're going to do all of next week. Is they're going to be shilling products. And really the only questions I want to ask them is, Patrick, how much is Dove giving you in product for doing this?
Tio's promoting Febreze.
Oh, I love Febreze. Oh, is he really? I love Febreze.
There's an entire interview about how Febreze has helped him.
Yeah.
What would be the commercial? Want to get the stink off your career? Want to get into the Hall of Fame with something that doesn't stink on you? Try Febreze.
You're good at this, man.
Are you so great that everyone thinks you stink, even though you're great?
Oh, wow. Jerome Bettis is promoting Lando Lakes.
Wow.
He's promoting butter.
Butter? Really?
Oh, of course.
Wow.
Really? I mean, that's the way it should be, though. That's good marketing by the butter people. They're like, who do we need to get in sports? What happened? Bartolo? Can we get Butterolo? Can we get Butterolo? No? Okay, get the bus. The bus will do it. Here's the bus on behalf of butter. Does butter really need advertising? Guillermo, put it on the poll. Does butter need advertising? I figure you're either in on butter or you're out on butter, but you're not going to be watching television and say, you know what, I need more butter in my life.
Oh, there's a bunch of different butters out there. There's I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. There's Lando Lakes. Truffle butter's trying to get in the conversation, Dan.
But does the straight stick of butter, does that need advertising? Dan's right on that. Yes, the other kinds do. The spray butters, all that.
I'm more inclined to get Lando Lakes if Jerome Bettis is talking to me about it.
Do you guys go butter stick or like in the tube?
I love butter stick.
I'm a tube guy.
Oh, really? Wow.
I go tube, but certain recipes call for the stick. So you always got to have a stick on standby.
So wait a minute. Jerome Bettis is coming to us next week on behalf of butter.
Yep.
I mean, who created this as a business model? What kind of scam is the American media running next week where we just trot out Jerome Bettis with a stick of butter and we put him on the radio and that sells and moves product? Who created this idea? Shouldn't we stop doing that?
No. Why? I mean, what, are you kidding me? I mean, if not for butter, we don't get the bus on. I mean,
sports meets capitalism. It's such an American celebration. It really is.
With butter.
In a food court.
In a food court in Minneapolis.
How sports radio is that, though? A food court.
I mean, it is perfect. I can't think of a better, other than a septic system, broadcasting live from a Minneapolis septic system, I cannot think of a better place for sports radio than a food court. Maybe some porta potty somewhere on a construction site in Minneapolis would be worse. But other than that, like in terms of sadness of where's sports radio going in 2018, well, of course they're going near the samples at a food court.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.